So for the past week, I've been using this almighty blower right here, the iPhone 15 Pro Max, a mobile so big that even your mum would struggle to fit it inside of her purse. Forget the Pro Max, it should really be called the Prolapse, because that's exactly what my rectum did when I tried to squeeze this thing inside of my jeans. And I've absolutely got to remember that when this thing is in my trouser pocket, don't sit down too quickly, and definitely, when you are sat down, don't lean forwards. Because I did that once and, well, let's just say that my chances of fathering a second child have been significantly reduced. And anyway, because it's been a full week already, how time flies, I thought I'd share my thoughts on this almighty bugger in case anyone is still sat on the fence about spunking up well over $1,000 for it. And hey, I'm actually going to shoot the whole thing right here on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, just like some other YouTube twats like to do, because, you know, I'm nothing if not a conformist. Now, what's that thing that's worse than shingles? It must be the Techspert jingles. Techspert Weekly! Now, believe it or not, the iPhone 15 Pro Max actually feels rather light, which is quite surprising considering it's roughly the same dimensions as a Ford Fiesta. And that's because Apple has switched from stainless steel to titanium, which has shaved 20 grams roughly off the weight of this thing. So as an added bonus, whenever I pluck this thing out of my pocket, I actually feel like I've gotten really strong without any of that going to the gym bollocks. And that is basically the only real design change here on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, besides the accent of the alert slider, which, to be honest, I'm quite pleased about because it's a massive bit noisy around here. And hey, that new action button's actually pretty good. You can get it to do basically anything you want besides fetch you a beer and massage your calves. I banged on about the button in my lovely tips and tricks guide though, so you can check that out if you want to know more. And also battery life, you'd expect that would be quite good, right, on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, because that A17 Pro, apparently that's like fucking more energy efficient now. And you know, this thing is the size of a fucking semi-detached house, so must have a decent sized battery and therefore great battery life, right? Well, you'd be bang f***ing wrong. I mean, it's still early days, but the phone has had a full week to settle. Normally I see a noticeable improvement on other phones with the battery life in that time. Not so much here. Hopefully the situation will improve with updates and more use, but seriously, right now I'm averaging around 4 to 5 hours of mixed use screen on time, and that's it. And that is with pretty basic mixed use as well. Bit of web browsing, bit of messaging, the occasional frenzied hentai marathon. I'm just gonna swap it around to the arse camera for a bit, just mix it up. And don't forget, if you do need to boost the battery life a wee bit before you head out for an evening of sophisticated conversation down the Lamb and Flagship, you'll probably want to plug it in a good hour or so before you bugger off out, because let's face it, that battery charging is about as quick as a 90-year-old's bowel movements. But I will be using the iPhone 15 Pro Max for a good while longer before my in-depth review, God help me, so stay tuned for more on all that. But in better news, the performance has been rather bloody good, as you might expect. Everyday experience is smoother than a buttered up Barry White. A couple of times when I've been gaming, charging, using the camera, etc., the iPhone 15 Pro Max has warmed up to roughly the same temperature as the insides of a freshly microwaved Ginster's pasty. Which, to be fair, now that we're hitting winter here in Blighty, the prospect of slipping a hot blower inside of your pants rather tempting. Talk about roasted nuts. Once again, I'll keep tabs on that, see if the situation improves. And oh yeah, iPhones usually suffer from a few, shall we say, quirks during the first few weeks or sometimes even months of their existence, and the iPhone 15 Pro Max certainly does not disappoint there, boy howdy. And the most fun I've had with it was when I headed out to Berlin for a couple of days, and as soon as I landed, switched off airplane mode, the earphone connected and a tiny E popped up next to the network symbol. And believe me, this was very much not the good kind of E, the kind that makes you want to dance to a sped up version of Mbop for 10 hours until your knees fall off. No, this E stands for Edge, which frankly in 2023 I'm surprised is even a thing. I mean, it'd be absolutely fine if all I wanted to do was download a 10 kilobyte ringtone. But no, alas, even Edge was not meant to be, because as soon as that E popped up, it bloody scarpered again. And this wee tease, a mere sniff of even a piss-poor internet connection, kept repeating ad nauseum. And as if that wasn't bad enough, I've also struggled to connect to public networks on my iPhone 15 Pro Max. Quite often I'll have to manually load the portal page, only for that to be stuck in buffer and hell, sometimes for hours. Fun! And again, just like the battery life and the other woes, hopefully this is just a week one issue that'll get kicked right in the cock sooner rather than later. But honestly, if you're still unsure about whether to chuck huge amounts of cash at Apple for this ungainly brick, then I'd maybe hold off for a bit longer.
Oh yeah, and the dynamic island, still
And it's business as usual with that 48 meg primary shooter, although now it spaffs out 24 meg photos by default. And these are ever so slightly more detailed than before, and they certainly look fine blown up onto a big screen. But if you have an iPhone from the past couple of years, don't expect any obvious leap in quality. HDR pics are still artificially boosted so darker regions are brightly reproduced, while colours veer towards natural compared with some flagships, although they do get a little bit warm at times. At night time, the iPhone still does fine. You'll get all the usual crazy flaring with street lighting, etc., and colours aren't quite as nicely reproduced as they are on the S23 Ultra, but even the pics aren't grainy, and at night time, the iPhone 15 Pro Max can shoot some good looking video. In fact, it's the video where this blower really excels, boasting crispy visuals at 4K resolution and excellent image stabilization, plus proper stereo audio capture. You can smooth zoomly in and out when recording, and the transition to that telephoto lens isn't too jarring at all. It's proper trouser-rousing stuff. Meanwhile, the ultra-wide camera is merely okay. Don't bother using it at night, same story as most other flagship ultra-wides. But of course it's the fresh telephoto setup that anyone actually gives a shiny toss about. And this is pretty decent, if not a match for better rivals again like the S23 Ultra. As you'll see from my side-by-side comparison, which you should 100% watch after this because it's bloody amazing. The iPhone's zoom maxes out at 25 times, but if you push close to that, then you'll get blocky, abstract-looking pics. And shoot it against a bright blue sky does kind of make the iPhone 15 Pro Max dump its guts. But frankly, it's in low light where the telephoto lens is about as useful as a horny Labrador in a nunnery. I mean, what the actual f*** is this? It looks like a ZX Spectrum loading screen. And anyway, that right there, kiddies, is my full 1 week verdict on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And frankly, if you're going to go iPhone 15, you might as well go Pro, because those are the ones with the actual upgraded specs and flagship features, the likes of the fast USB-C, even if you have to buy yourself a separate cable to take full advantage of those speeds, because Apple have been utter cheapskates and bundled an inferior cable in the box with it, despite the fact it costs well over £1,000. Toss bags. Otherwise, if you don't want to go Pro, well, you might as well just buy yourself an older iPhone and save yourself a bit of cash, which you can then go and spend on a bag of E's and a copy of Mbop. Hooray! But anyway, yeah, stay tuned for my full in-depth iPhone 15 Pro Max review, and now it's time for the part of the show that involves more shit hurling than a gorilla's playpen. It's viewer comments. Viewer comments.
still
So let's kick off this week with Chris Byron. You eat Chris, hope all is good, sir. There was a bit of fluff on your head all the way through this video. It was very distracting. Sort your tardiness out for next week. I can't bloody help it, alright? I swear to God there's some sort of fucking fluff fairy who deposits this shit on my ball bonds just as I'm reaching for the bloody record button. Just yet another reason why you should just watch this shit in 480p. Sean O'Neilbud says, you didn't really drink that piss, that's self-harm in anyone's book. Referring, I'm assuming, to the Aunt Bessie's apple crumble and custard beer, which I was banging on about last week, and I bloody did drink it, mate. I'm northern, alright? I'm not spending £2.50 on a beer and not f***ing well drinking it. This is definitely another big difference between northerners and southerners, because it wasn't until I buggered off down here that I saw somebody leave a pub with half of their pint still untouched on the table. I mean, that is f***ing criminal. That's right up there with arson and child murder. Also on the subject of the Aunt Bessie's beer, DJ KC says probably best to avoid anything by Northern Monk. Their tie-in gimmicks are more about attention seeking than actual effort on content. In this case, I have to agree, hands down. I do like some of the Northern Monk stuff, but yeah, not the collaboration stuff they do. They did do a cracking stout, which I got from Tesco's, about 12% or something. Proper wine strength, cracking stuff. Brace yourself for some minor Pixel Watch chat ahead of the old Google event next week. Feroz says, buying a Pixel Watch is the worst way you can waste your money. Actually, buying James Corden's autobiography is the worst way you can waste your money. I'd rather use that cash to pay someone to take a run and kick at my bollocks. And Woody Vlog says, I just want a bigger dial with minimal bezels, that's all. I like that. Proper low expectations probably explains why he watches this show. I'm assuming that you're British, mate, and yeah, I've got fingers and toes and all my extremities crossed that Google doesn't completely massively let you down in just a few days. Dickin5Cider says, what's the point of smartwatches as I'd only use it to tell the time? Yeah, I get the feeling that smartwatches aren't really for you. Oh, and he continues, please don't review feet anymore. Believe me, my friend, that was strictly a one-time deal. I do have some dignity to preserve. Actually, no, I'm just lying to myself now. Nisa Dave says pork scratchings are probably one of the healthiest snacks you can eat. Just Google ketogenic diet. You know, I'm actually not going to Google ketogenic diet because I'm just going to assume that what you say is 100% truth. Because after all, if you can't trust the comment section on a YouTube video, then what the can you trust? Nicola Atkins says, it's funny you mention here the crazy shit that LG used to be renowned for. In the early 2000s, my bro used to be a rep for them. He said it's the weirdest job he's ever had. All I remember is him coming home with loads of LG merch, pens and notebooks and stuff. The tagline was, playing with yourself got better. And there was some sort of Max Power /Nut /Zoo type lass on the front, scantily dressed and holding some sort of game controller. Or you can only hope was a game controller. To be fair, that basically sums up the early 2000s in a nice little nutshell. I swear to God, every single tech expo, games conference, stuff like that you went to, you'd think that you just accidentally stopped paying attention and wandered into a strip joint or something. Like, for anyone who never experienced this back in the day, basically you'd step onto any booth and immediately you'd have massive plastic tits flapping in your face, usually some girl grinding up against you like she's got a really bad itch and no arms. And this would just be like the Microsoft Windows Vista booth or something. I mean, frankly, for Vista it would have been more apt if someone was just stood there hurling hardened lumps of dog shit at you. Jason says, while you're out in Germany, could you please ask Xiaomi when my Redmi Note 10 Pro will get the latest security patch, as I'm still running the May the 1st patch. I mean, I would have done, but the Xiaomi reps had the company credit card that kept us all topped up with steins and sausage, and frankly, I didn't want to f them off and end up having to pay for my own drinks. I'm a functioning alcoholic, that shit gets expensive. But no, seriously, this is the problem with more budget-friendly Xiaomi smartphones, and also, you know, the Motorola's and stuff as well, is that the software support isn't as good, as strong, as dedicated as what you'll get from a Samsung or a OnePlus or something. You should still be on an update later than that though, because according to the Xiaomi Security Center, you get updates every 3 months up until March 2024, so they're definitely a couple of months tardy on that one. Well, fingers crossed for you that it comes through soon, buddy. Next up, Le Crab says, Uncle Spurt ignored my really tech question on a different video, so I'll try again. I've considered getting a budget smartphone as opposed to an action cam. Those are more expensive, and a phone that gives you more screen to follow what the f you're shooting. It would have to have proper image stabilization, decent cameras, and waterproofing. Please can I pick your mighty brain on this? You certainly may, you wee charmer. And water resistance is particularly tricky on a low budget, but I did recently cover the Motorola Edge 40 Neo, which is IP68 water resistant, can be fully submerged, and it's got a pretty decent camera on it. Shoots respectable looking video, so yeah, that'll do. Anime Planet says, hello there. Yeah, hello right back. That was an easy one. More like that, please. None of this asking me actual questions shit. Michael Ball says, isn't Apple rumoured to be launching a new iPhone SE next year? If so, can't wait to see you torture yourself all over again. Yeah, thanks, buddy. Yeah, rumours point to a rejiggered iPhone XR, basically, just with, you know, the new chipset in it, and that's pretty much it. Which fills my heart with absolute joy, because it was the iPhone XR that eventually got me blacklisted from the f***ing Apple lot. Or at least I can only assume it was. That was the last time they actually bothered to send me anything. And yes, if they do launch a new iPhone SE in the new year, I'll probably go out and spend actual money on it so I can review it for you lovely lot. Honestly, I'm like one of those f***ing mindless, nameless thugs in a Bruce Lee film who keeps jumping up and running at the c***, even though they know full bloody well he's just going to put them right back on their arse again. I just can't get enough of the punishment, honestly. Dr. Wigglechin says, can you teach us Americans how to talk like you guys with your blokes, bonnets and blowers? Well, definitely don't get confused and accidentally call a bloke a blower. That's probably the best advice I can offer. And also, dog shit is really bad, but dog's bollocks is really good. Don't ask me why, it's just like everything else on this weird little island, it makes all sense, but we just get on with it. Next up, Mega James says, Uncle Spurt, is it Xiaomi or Chamois? Well, I've been explicitly told by Xiaomi executives that it's pronounced Xiaomi. But you know, much like Adidas, I've heard it pronounced very different ways from very different quarters, and frankly I'm too old and tired to really give much of a shit anymore. You can pronounce it piss flaps for all I care. And oh my golly gosh, I've overrun by about 10 minutes already, so better make this the last comment of the week. Baz Anime says, in a cage fight, who would you rather face? 100 duck-sized James Cordens or 1 T-Rex-sized James Corden? Am I going mental, or have I already been asked this question by someone on this show before? I've got some serious deja vu going on right here. Although, Lord knows I bang on about James Corden enough that he's probably infiltrating my night terrors about now. But to answer your question, I'd probably rather take on the T-Rex sized one because the sounds of his agonized screams as he sizzles and pops would be just that much more gratifying. And on that immensely violent but cathartic bombshell, it's time for this sack of cack to be ended once more. So, a huge thanks to everyone who commented last week. Great fun smashing away through all of those as usual. Please do leave your comments, questions, etc. No techie stuff, please. It hurts my brain. And we'll get away through as much of that as possible next week. And speaking of next week, next week, what the f*** is next week? Well, it appears there's a bit of a launch by Google next Wednesday, October the 4th, where they might possibly be launching their new Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro and that Pixel Watch. Not that it has not completely leaked to buggery already, so exciting times. I've got a massive pile of shame just staring me in the face right there, which I'm going to try and cover next week, including the Sony Xperia 5 Mark V, the Motorola Moto G54, under £200 for some sexy specs, and so much other gadgetry goodness it'll make you frankly moist. So please do have yourselves a bloody wonderful weekend. Cheers again for watching this shower of right to the bitter end. Poke subscribe, ding that notifications bell, tell a friend, and have yourself a cracking weekend. Cheers everyone, love you!